So we have to put ourselves in our own context. Don't compare with your neighboring institutions. Okay, उसने वो किया तो मैं भी ये करूंगी, ये वाला बात कभी भी नहीं करना. That is the worst part, and that is where you lose your grades. That is where you lose your grades. You are evaluated as you are in your own context. So the evaluation differs from institution to institution. इसलिए आप 4-5 यूनिवर्सिटीज का डेटा देखेंगे और their activities देखेंगे, they are not similar. All are not similar. Maybe teaching learning may be similar. Curriculum is different. The programs offered are different. The teachers who perform there are different. The research themes are different. The outreach activities are different. कोई भी ऐसा चीज नहीं होगा except the teaching learning practices which is common, which is uniform across universities. तो इसलिए एक वो डर की बात निकाल दीजिए आप. हमारे पास ये नहीं है, हम म्यूजिक यूनिवर्सिटी है, हम वेटनरी यूनिवर्सिटी है, हम आयुष का यूनिवर्सिटी है, हमारे पास क्या रिसर्च रहेगा. We don't do that type of research. We are not focused in what is a Scopus or Web of Science. But there are other journals which also are taken by NAAC. मैंने जैसे PubMed है medical वालों का. Then for agriculture there is some other journal, some other database which they consider. So similarly for veterinary there are databases which they consider. So इसलिए don't think that only Scopus or Web of Science forms the basis for assessment of your research. Now, I just gave you an analysis of the status of UP with reference to universities and colleges, how they are performing in the various criteria. So this is a little bit encouraging. You should see, despite low performance in research and governance and leadership, you did get A++ grades. You did get A++ grade. Okay, so nothing is that, as the earlier speakers have told, if you are low in one, but if you are a little higher in the above, it aligns and it maps with each other, and somewhere the cumulative effect will be good. The cumulative effect will be good. So if you are poor or weak in any one of the criteria, don't take back yourself. Try to improve that criteria for your best and then go ahead. So this is the status of autonomous colleges. Okay, and this is the status of PG colleges. Why I am showing this is, it's not only the campus performance which is evaluated. The college performance also impacts the performance of the university in a way or the other, especially in terms of extension and outreach, leadership, curriculum development and reforms. It will impact largely. So it is very important for the universities, especially affiliating universities, to contribute to the colleges. So this for UG colleges, which is very, very disappointing. And a large chunk of colleges of the country exist in UP. So it is very important that we try to, as affiliating universities, we work towards these colleges. So I just gave you in the context in which you are working, Now this is the NAAC value framework. जितना भी tools और जितना भी criteria और metrics NAAC जो develop कर रहे हैं, ये 5 चीजों के ऊपर develop होता है. These are the 5 things around which the NAAC criteria evolves. One is contribute to national development, which the UP state is doing very well in terms of outreach, in terms of curriculum implementation, in terms of new programs added and the diversity shown, fostering global competencies among students, integration of technical skills and the skill sector councils programs into the curriculum, which is very common, inculcating value system among students. If you remember, many of the initiatives the Honorable Governor Madam talks when she visits SNAC or other officials about these value systems. How do we encourage our students to be good citizens, to be good global citizens? Then promoting use of technology and quest for excellence. This is why this manthan is the quest for excellence. So these are the 5 important considerations on which the NAC value framework or the NAC framework is developed. And how or what is the tool of NAC? It is, मैंने बहुत जरूरी है कि NAC का कुछ चीजें समझना. I know that most of you will get very bored listening to this, क्योंकि बहुत workshops attend किया होगा, बहुत सुना होगा. So I'm trying to not to give the very nitty-gritties of NAC processes, but ये जो चीजें है ना वो समझना बहुत जरूरी है. So what is a criteria, which is a very broad-based criteria? तो criteria के अंदर key indicators होता है, key indicators के अंदर questions होता है metrics. So macro to micro level का evaluation होता है. So metrics, a group of metrics form the key indicators, and a group of key indicators will form the criteria. So when you get a score sheet, you will get on that criteria, key indicators and metrics. So the criteria, the 7 criteria are standard for NAC. For 25 years, we have been working on the 7 criteria. But the content of the 7 criteria keeps on varying. Keeps on varying. अभी NEP आ रहे तो इसमें और variations आएगा. Like how to accommodate multiple exits, multiple entries, how to look at register credit transfers, credit accumulations, how to look at multidisciplinarity, single core, double core subjects. All these things have to be accomplished for accreditation. So there'll be a change into this metric level and key indicator level components. Not immediately, maybe after a year or 2. As of now, change nahi hoga. One good thing NAC has done is to ensure transparency. They have disclosed their benchmarks. So now everybody can see what is your target, what is the value if you achieve, you will get a grade, what grade you will get. Okay. For example, 100% revision हुआ तो आपका 4 का 4 मार्क आएगा. उससे नीचे होगा तो माने 80% होगा तो 3 आएगा, 60% होगा तो 2 आएगा. So the benchmarks are disclosed now. Earlier, when the other group of universities went for accreditation, the benchmarks were not disclosed. Okay. Now it is disclosed, so it is easier for you to set targets and work towards achieving these benchmarks. मैं वो सब नहीं बता रही हूँ क्योंकि all these are on NAC website. Okay. Because of the initiative of the UP government, all the manuals of NAC are translated to Hindi. There is a Hindi tutorial as well as an English tutorial which explains the whole process, which is available on NAC website. आप देख के उसको, you can go through that after, whenever you are free, and that will help you to understand better. Now, there are 4 or 5 types of questions which NAC asks you when you start submitting your manuals. One is a quantitative question where it's a number game where they'll ask you about numbers. So all these quantitative questions are input values. Like कितना बच्चों को आपने admit किया है, कितने बच्चे ने exam attend किया है, कितना टीचर्स है आपके पास में, और कितने टीचर्स का PhD है, उनका टीचिंग एक्सपीरियंस क्या है. These are some of the numbers. Okay. How much you are spending on infrastructure, कितना classrooms है, कितना computers है आपके पास में. These are some of the things they'll be asking. These are quantitative questions. And these quantitative questions will decide the fate of the institution. So data management, data analysis is very, very important. Very, very important. अगर आप डेटा ठीक से प्रेजेंट नहीं करेंगे, then it will be a problem. Then you will not get the grade what you deserve. ये जरूर याद रखना है. And one more thing is quantitative data जब present करते हैं, you should understand why they are asking this question. What is the intent of this question? है ना. अगर मान लीजिए आपसे पूछ रहे हैं what is the teaching experience of your teachers, so what is the intent of this question? Is it they want to understand the cadre ratio? Is it that they want to understand the number of teachers on board and the retention rates? क्या है इसमें? That is what you have to understand. For example, if it is cadre ratio, then it will be a different response. But NAC asks you only in terms of retention rate. That is why they are asking what is the number of teachers working, years of teacher experience in the same institution. Same institution. So अगर आप लोग क्या करते हैं नॉर्मली उसमें, परमानेंट से टेम्पररी से परमानेंट हो गया तो सिर्फ परमानेंट का वैल्यू लेते हैं, टेम्पररी का इयर्स ऑफ एक्सपीरियंस नहीं काउंट करते. सो देन योर वैल्यू विल कम डाउन. ठीक है ना. व्हेन योर वैल्यू विल कम डाउन, ऑब्वियसली you will lose your marks. Similarly, कई लोगों ने क्या किया है, suppose a teacher is promoted from associate professor to professor. As a professor कितना साल उनका experience है उस institution में, वो ही सिर्फ लिखते हैं. They don't write the total experience as assistant professor, associate professor, as a temporary teacher, plus as a professor कितना experience है. When you write the whole history, and when you understand the data and put it presently, correctly, then you will score good marks. But if you casually look at just responding, वो उन्होंने question किया, हमने जवाब दे दिया. हमने लिखा है ex teacher SN सिंह सर है, प्रोफेसर है, लास्ट ईयर से है, तो मैंने 2022 से, तो years of experience in the same institution, एक साल लिख दिया, मैंने submit कर दिया. So then you are going to get into trouble. So you have to intelligently interpret the data you are submitting. That is very, very important. Okay. Now there are formulas for calculation. Okay. जो डायरेक्ट डेटा पूछते हैं तो वो 2 साल का डेटा मांगता है, लेकिन जो इनडायरेक्ट डेटा होता है दैट इज एन एवरेज ऑफ एवरेजेस, तो 5 साल का पूछते हैं. तो 5 साल का आपका करेक्ट एकेडमिक ईयर का डेटा कैलकुलेट करना पड़ता है व्हेन यू पुट अप द डेटा. ओके. इफ यू डोंट पुट अप द डेटा एज पर द एकेडमिक ईयर, again there is a possibility that you lose. Okay. For example, हम मान लेते हैं हम NAC ने जून तक डेटा मांगते हैं. NAC considers academic year from June to May. लेकिन किसी मैंने because most technical institutions admissions happen in August September, exams भी September में होता है. So what will you, because NAC has asked the data only up to June, लेकिन मेरे एग्जाम नहीं हुआ है कॉलेज में, तो उस साल का मैंने पास परसेंटेज 0 रख दिया. Okay, there are incidences. I'm telling you real examples. Yeah, and माई प्लेसमेंट्स ऑल्सो प्लेसमेंट्स हुआ ना, उस साल लेट हो गया थोड़ा सा, उस साल का प्लेसमेंट मैंने 0 कर दिया, तो क्या हो जाता है कि आपका मार्क्स कम हो जाता है ऑब्वियसली ना। ये 0 वैल्यू व्हेन दे एवरेज ओवर 5 years, तो 1 साल का तो वैल्यू 0 हो गया आपका, है ना। तो यू हैव टू वेरी categorically and carefully review your data while you are present. This is very, very important if you have to get a good score. Okay? You have to interpret it properly. Then there are 5-year block questions which we have talked. Then you have current year data. करंट ईयर माने जो जैसे 22-23 तक आपका डेटा मांगते हैं, तो लास्ट ईयर ऑफ योर डेटा सबमिशन विल बी योर करंट ईयर. करंट ईयर माने अभी का नहीं होता, नॉट द ईयर व्हेन विच यू आर वर्किंग. ओके, you will submit data to NAC only of the completed years, completed academic years. So current year data will be an ongoing data. So you can't pop up your data, so it should be the last year of submission. Then of course you have qualitative descriptive questions. So that you have to write in a description. For Sanskrit, they can answer in Sanskrit, Hindi or English. For English, if you want, you can answer either in English or Hindi, whichever mode you want. There is a provision made, but most often people till date have not preferred to answer in Hindi or Sanskrit, though we have given an option. They tried to use the question, but nobody opted to explain it in Hindi. Okay, but if you want, there is a provision, you can always do, but you have to do the whole manual. ऐसा नहीं कि एक जगह मैं हिंदी में बात कर लूँगी और दूसरे जगह I'll give the response in English, ऐसे नहीं होगा. एक सिस्टम को फॉलो करना पड़ेगा. Of course, then there is a student satisfaction survey which carries a very huge weightage. ये anonymous survey होता है, इसके लिए you have to give the students data. 2.7 में number of students का data entry करना पड़ता है. It's not mandatory that you do 100% entry. 50% is minimum, but I advise people to give up to 60%. क्योंकि एक बैच ऑफ स्टूडेंट्स विल बी आउटगोइंग. कई बार ऐसे होता है कि जैसे आपका एसएसआर सबमिट करते समय तक वो फाइनल ईयर में होगा, बट बाय द टाइम you submit SSR and NAC starts the survey, they may be finishing their exams and they might have left the university. तो उस बच्चे ने कभी भी they don't respond. Okay, so it's better you avoid that student strength. And then also first year का admission नहीं हुआ होगा, so then there'll be only an in-between batch of 1.5 year batch left to you. So NAC made this provision up to 50% बच्चे को बच्चों का डेटा अगर आप दे देते तो उसके ऊपर सर्वे करेगा. And you have to give all the details in terms of gender, year of admission, then their roll numbers and phone numbers. Okay, this will be and email IDs. Okay, now please remember, an OTP will come to the student's mobile number for completing the survey. This was not there earlier. This was not there earlier. Since this April, they have started this. So to avoid manipulation of student satisfaction surveys, they have done this. So what you have to do for student satisfaction survey is, the questionnaire, student satisfaction survey का questionnaire is on NAC website. उसको download करिए. If possible, get it translated. Hindi version is there. If in any other language you want, you can translate it. Explain your students the importance of this data, of this survey. उसमें 21 questions रहता है and one is an open-ended question. उनको ये बताइए, you know, as an alma mater, you have to respond properly to the institution's questionnaire. अगर कोई टीचर के ऊपर ग्रज है या कोई इंस्टीट्यूशन के ऊपर ग्रज है या मैनेजमेंट के ऊपर ग्रज है, आपका कोई ग्रीवियंस है, तो यू राइट इट इन दैट open-ended question and you tell them that these open-ended questions will be compiled by NAAC and given to the visiting peer team members. ये सच भी है, देते भी है for verification. So you build confidence in them to respond to the questionnaires properly. That is how you know you have to handle your survey. Otherwise, what will happen? The students are not really used to this type of surveys. तो वो क्या करते हैं, किसी टीचर के ऊपर उसका गुस्सा है तो निकाल देते हैं. तो यू हैव टू ऑलवेज कम्युनिकेट विद देम, engage with them, give a sort of awareness program so that the survey comes good. Okay, the survey is good. So now coming to the 7 criteria, though Bobde sir and others have told that it should be metric wise detailed, I have not put it metric wise. The reason being the diversity of the institutions in which we are attending, because NAAC has a manual for medical separate. Medical means medical, Ayush, which includes homeopathy, Ayurveda, nursing, all those health science institution का manual अलग होता है. Then there is a manual for law. Is there any law college also here? No? I don't think so. So there is a manual for law which
ये लॉ यूनिवर्सिटी या लॉ कॉलेज से कोई है?
नहीं होगा. Okay.
और आयुष से आप हैं, लॉ कॉलेज से आप हैं?
हाँ. So law has a separate manual which is released recently, and there is a manual for open universities separately, and there is a manual for dual universities separately. Dual university माने partly distance education programs जो चलाते हैं, those are called dual universities. Okay, उसका manual अलग है, and there is a manual for specialized institutions which is not yet come, which where music is included, but which is not yet released. Okay, maybe they'll release it shortly. Then there is a general manual. Okay, and there is a manual for Sanskrit universities, that is separate. Sanskrit university.
संस्कृत के आए हैं?
संस्कृत.
संस्कृत यूनिवर्सिटी के.
हाँ. So
आप आगे आ जाइए, आप आगे बैठिए जरा, आगे आ जाइए आप लोग. संस्कृत. अच्छा, एग्रीकल्चर यूनिवर्सिटी के? एग्रीकल्चर के भी हैं, इनका भी बता.
एग्रीकल्चर इज
जनरल यूनिवर्सिटी. और आयुष के कितने हैं? आयुष
है. आयुष
होम्योपैथी और आयुष
मेडिकल, ऑल मेडिकल.
तो मेडिकल और आयुष का सेपरेट मेन्यू.
Now for medical or Ayush, I just would like to make it clear, or even for engineering and technology, there are some universities which only have the function of affiliation. They don't offer any courses on their campuses. If that is the case, they don't become eligible. Okay, if that is the course, they are not eligible for accreditation because they can't enter the number of students, they can't enter the pass percentage, they can't enter the teaching learning process, there will be no teachers on board. So only affiliating function jo karte hai, affiliating and examination function, without offering any courses on the campus, they do not become eligible.
मैडम एक मिनट, आयुष की ऑन कैंपस है क्या आपका? आयुष विश्वविद्यालय का ऑन कैंपस शुरू नहीं हुआ है, कब तक शुरू होगा आपका? तो मेरे ख्याल से आयुष का फिर और कोई यूनिवर्सिटी जिनका ऑन कैंपस नहीं है, केवल एफिलिएटिंग है, कौन सी यूनिवर्सिटी है? मेडिकल यूनिवर्सिटी. आपका ऑन कैंपस नहीं है. ओके, तो मैडम वही मुझे जो मैंने आपको कहा था.
But anyway, it's good for you to understand so that you can guide your affiliating colleges and their, do some reforms on examinations, on curriculum, etc. So, but they don't become eligible. Now, in the curricular aspects, let it be any manual. This is criteria 1. We have 7 criteria. We are taking criteria after criteria. For curriculum 1, for curricular aspects, let it be any type of university or college. They're going to look at the quality of the curriculum used available with the institution. Quality of the curriculum available with the institution. So on the quantitative part, they will look at the number of programs offered by the institution and percentage of programs revised by the institution over a period of 5 years. 5 years. वहाँ पे template में एक NAC will ask you, if you do 30% of revision, then only it is considered as revision. If you revise 30% of your curriculum, then only it is considered as a revision. So most often, universities try to say, look at the number of courses revised and say that, we have not done 30% of the course revision. So it is, less than 30%, so there is no course revision. That is what you normally write. But how do you make that 30%? What is the evaluative criteria for the 30%? 30% can be looked at in different ways. Take all the total content, 30% of the content you revise, or 30% of the time allotted for the revised total content to the revised content, or 30% of the marks assigned to that content which is revised. So don't bother. Any revision is normally considered as 30%, major revision. But if you just change the name of the course or program, it will not be considered as revision. Then the second one, what they will ask you is whether you have decided or described your curriculum with reference to the outcomes-based education or not. Whether you have program outcomes, course outcomes, all these things are defined or not. Learning objects, learning outcomes, whether they are designed and decided and made public. If you have not done so far, many of the universities in many of the programs other than engineering, they have not done. So many universities which are now accredited, they did it. They did it as a part of their exercise for NAC. So it is important to translate your curriculum into outcomes-based curriculum. Okay. So another question they'll generally ask you is about new courses introduced. Okay, new courses introduced. So in new courses introduced, most often the institutes write either 5%, 10%, or they write even 0%. But almost always over a period of 5 years, as a thumb rule, I can say at least there'll be 40 to 50% of new courses introduced. Especially in the coming years, it will be more than that, because you are starting NEP, so you're going to introduce new courses, because you will give multiple choices, multiple options, etc. And in the earlier period, you have introduced new electives as a part of your CBCS. And if you look back to the universities which are got accredited, criteria 1 is the most fetching for the universities. Most fetching, and where you should get full marks. Where you should get full marks. You should aim for doing that. Okay? It's very, very important, and it is basically in your hands. If you do a little hard work and aim at, digging out the data properly, I think there'll be no university which will be scoring less in any of the components of criteria 1. Okay? And there is one more question, what they ask about job orientation available within the courses offered by the institution. So general liberal arts and science programs, they say 0. It's not like that. If you look at the outcomes, even, anything which is a verb, in an outcome, like, any learning which happens, or any small skills development component which happens in a course, will lead that course outcome to be job-oriented course. So it is very important to look at your outcomes and decide whether it is history or whether even it is English. In English, you will have, the one of the outcome will be development of communication skills, development of abilities to translate, abilities to, compare literature from all the literary activities. These are all job-oriented courses. So those particular courses should essentially be identified as job-oriented courses. Don't think that, because, we offer music, it is not job-oriented, except the last thing. Or we offer only programs in languages, so it is not job-oriented. Okay? So now, for example, recently, IFLU, Institute of Foreign Languages University in Hyderabad, and Maulana Azad National Urdu University, they all got A+ and A++. And if you there see their course curriculum, they are language intensive universities. But there is a lot of, translation component which is involved, comparative literature which is involved, communication which is involved, writing which is involved, okay? Or they take courses like journalism, multiple options, or history, it is tourism, etc. So you have to really look and not casually respond. If you casually respond, then I think, I'm very particularly in detail explaining this criteria for this group of institutions. The reason being, you are very, very specialized institution. Okay, you are passionate about the subjects you are offering, and you see them not as a professional subjects, but you always have that habit of, looking at them as encouraging some sort of cultural unity into it, building some sort of specialized characters, and contributing to a development of a passion for a student, rather than converting them into job-oriented courses. So it is important that at least for NAC should look also at the job orientation into these courses. So this is what, mostly the curriculum 1, the criteria 1 looks at. So there is how much revamping of the curriculum which happens on board, what is the type of pedagogy you are using, and what is the assessment practices which happen, what type of student support you are giving in terms of curriculum and its transaction, and what is the type of enhanced student experience the students will have on board once they pass out of the particular program which is offered. Yeah. I think this is also going into sleeping mode after a few minutes, like all of us, after a good lunch. So this is overcharged. So, this type of outcomes-based education frameworks for individual disciplines is available on the internet. So, if we start talking of OBE framework, it will take lots of time. So let us not discuss. And it's very boring also, as a very dry subject. So when you are cleaned up of your mind, and when you are got encouraged little bit, try to look at this type of OBE frameworks and develop outcomes for each of the curriculum which you are taking on board. It's very important, because the whole criteria 1 and 2 are evaluated based on implementation of OBE in your university system. इसका बैटरी का प्रॉब्लम लग रहा है और इट्स लूज बैटरी. ये ऐसा कौन सा चला रहे हैं आप? ये मुझे फॉरवर्ड ही चाहिए ये ना. He runs it, but for me it is not working. आपका चल रहा है, मेरे से नहीं चल रहा है. This is technology, you know, they don't listen to other than their owners. No, it's very owner savvy. नहीं पीछे नहीं, ये हो गया है. हाँ. So, you know, to conclude the whole thing, the whole of criteria 1 looks at these components. Okay. If you can, you know, work on these and keep your data ready, write-ups ready, I think it will be very good for you. You know, if you want to fetch good marks, and also if you want to attract people to read your university profiles and your manuals, use words like SDG, okay? Sustainable Development Goals of UN. You know, that will really attract even lot of research funds, okay? And also give a good citation and H-index to your papers which you publish. You know, there is a search which people try to put. And then, you know, it's very important that you should use some jargons, no? Like Janiji was telling, no, inclusive, inclusive, inclusive. Those are the things which really create attention and fetch you more marks. Not only in NAC, either in NARF or even world ranking or even in your publications. When, you know, now people do all sorts of, recently, no, don't worry. I'm conscious of that. So, you know, people now, recently I learned there is something called Chat GPT. Yeah, most of you might be knowing. You just give some, this thing, suppose I give it this chart and I give some attributes of my institution. On its own. That is a technology which is now available. Or I give this, I ask it to prepare a PPT. It will prepare beautiful PPTs in few minutes. Whereas for preparing this, I have to sit a whole day. Okay, so people are using such technology, AI, artificial intelligence, and they are making a search for rating your institutions. So it is very important that you use some of these jargons and use those codes. That is the SDG 4, which is quality education and quality higher education, which talks of inclusive and equitable quality education. So by now, most of you might have adopted the choice-based credit system in your institutions. You know, I don't know whether you have done or not, but we say yes to OBE also. Okay, wherever we respond, you know, there are 24 questions you will be responding to UGC on NEP, and one of them is OBE, where all of you might have told us. So you have to map your answers sent to UGC with these things, and that NEP 2020 implementation. And also we talk of the tools used, that is what is the type of technology you are using for teaching learning. What are the resources you are deploying, especially online resources, because 20 to 40% of your curriculum can be online. As per NEP 40%, as per UGC regulations 20%. So how much SWAYAM, MOOCs and other things you are using. And of course, one thing I missed, value-added courses. Value-added courses are nothing but, you do a lot of workshops on latest topics. Okay, those are your value-added courses. So normally, you don't complete that 30 credit hours, one credit hour. So try to extend your workshops for a little more duration and make it a pre-learning and post-learning exercise. Calculate as a pre-learning and post-learning exercise. It essentially need not be face-to-face. It can be blended mode, okay? It can be blended mode. That's how workshops run. You are all aware of something, already you know something, and I am only adding value to that. So you have a pre-learning exercise, you come prepared to this workshop, for which you spend an X amount of time, and then you also attend this workshop and you spend another X amount of time. So X plus X can be 30 hours. Okay, so you have to recalculate in that mode. And of course, curriculum revision. I have learned his trick of the trade. So for doing all this, there's a lot of pointers for action where government should be proactive in terms of giving you policies. Then there is, of course, you are the center of the activity, and there is industry. Okay, industry doesn't mean an industry like mechanical which runs, or a software industry. Industry can be anything. Tourism also can be industry. Media and entertainment also can be an industry. So there should be a triangulation of all these three to act upon criteria 1 and 2, especially criteria 1 in developing your curriculum. So this is the second criteria which will be working, that is teaching, learning and evaluation. This is criteria 2. There's a lot of connecting of the dots between criteria 1 and here. So they'll ask you a lot of questions with reference to number of PhDs of the teachers, percentage of teachers appointed against sanctioned posts. Then they'll ask you the experience of teachers in the same institution. So they want to talk to you on retention rates. Then they'll also ask you about the awards and achievements of teachers, okay? And of course, then they connect the teacher quality to the performance of the students. In terms, they start talking of diversity of students, percentage of, socio-economically backward students admitted to the institution, pass percentage of the students. These are some of the things they connect to each other. And also they will ask you about the examination systems in the institution. Very, very important. So here comes your, what you call ERs. What is the departments? ER, establishment departments, they tell, no? ER1, ER2, where your recruitments happen, those departments. And your COE, controller of examination. So most of these questions are answered by the administrative units, okay? So it is very important to engage the administrative units while preparing your SSR. So there's a lot of इस साइड को करें, वो भी नहीं आ रहे हैं. It's bored of my presentations. नहीं, वो वहां से, हाँ, ये कहाँ से, वहां से ना? Okay. Okay. So this is what our experience when we go and talk to teachers while preparing for NAC. I just put in a nutshell. I don't want to explain. It's not very pleasant. But it all depends again. As madam was telling, initially, this is a type of experience people express, they're very frustrated. You meet, the first interaction with the universities will not be very pleasant. So we have to go prepared. Of course, we are used to this type of thing. So they express so many grievances. So it's good to listen to them. How to listen to them. Some we can resolve, some we may not be resolved. 90% will not be able to resolve. At least we can, pour in some sort of motivation into them. Okay. So, temporary teachers are not sent for doing FDPs. They are not supported in terms of, classroom interactions. Most often, they are overloaded and exploited. And, this is a type of thing. And once you want them to engage in this type of SSR type of work, they don't cooperate. They don't cooperate. So it is very important that you take all teachers on board. Don't overload them or boss on temporary teachers, because almost I see 60% are on temporary basis. So, all the permanent teachers, except for the new recruited for last 1 year, will be phasing out. So it is very important to groom the temporary teachers. Either they are with you in your university or they'll go back to some other university. But somewhere they will be your peers. They are your colleagues. They're going to be in the same profession as you are. So it is very important to groom these teachers. And also it is very important for the older generation of teachers to learn from the newer generations, because they're very tech savvy, and we have to implement these online courses. Some older generation like us, we still are comfortable with blackboard teaching, but the younger generation are more computer savvy. They can handle gadgets very easily. They can use this ChatGPT type of softwares, AI, artificial intelligence, to move on quickly. So you capitalize on their capacities. So that is one very important thing, which the second criteria talks. Okay. So this is the type of classrooms we are going to see post-COVID. So it's very important that, we engage the younger teachers and, the older generation. They come together, they sit together and do a sort of capacity building for each other. So this quality of the examination is a third key indicator which happens in the criteria 2. Let it be any type of university, and let it be any type of exams you conduct. Open book exams, online exams, paper-built exams. Janiwas sir was telling how they reduce the cost by reducing the number of papers. It can be anything. So how do you optimize in this reforms? And online examinations and technology-mediated systems of examination department is going to be a very important component in evaluation under criteria 2. What type of automative processes or what type of automation you have made in the examination unit is what you have to respond. And here again, the controller of examination plays a major role for you. And you have to take their help. There's no other option. Oh, sorry. So under the examination reform systems, how do you, automate and how do you measure attainments as a part of outcomes-based education? And what is the quality of the question paper, which is provided to the students and what type of answer scripts evaluation which happens. For example, randomly they take a few answer sheets of high performing students, of mid performing students, and of the very low performing students, and they're given to an external examiner to evaluate. So, and see whether your examination system is running properly or not. Whether you have such type of quality checks is what NAC will be looking at. So at the end of the day, if after implementing NEP fully, this is what we are looking at. So one question which UGC and even NAC is asking is, what is your status of registration in ABC, Academic Bank of Credits? So most universities have not done it so far, have not extended or registered for ABC. So it is an important criteria where you should look into and register for ABC. And then what is the level of implementation of CBCS? That also has a lot of weightage. And of course, OBE, it has again some weightage. NEP 2020 implementation, you have to write a 2-page note as a part of submission of SSR. What is the status of implementation and registration under ABC? Okay. So these are very important components. So if you are registered under ABC, what type of credit accumulation and credit transfer mechanisms you have implemented in terms of signing MOUs with other universities, both national and international, makes a difference. Oh, sorry. So the third criteria is, we have 3 more criteria, you have to bear with me. Huh? There's only third, we have 7 criteria. I see many people sleeping around. So, but you know, I have to complete my session. So I'm going to speak whether you listen or not. But please try to focus, because you can't be left out. You know, now there is a set benchmark of A++. So now, you know, anything which comes below A is a setback to your universities. You'll be left back, and your performance-based funding is going to be impacted. So please be awake and listen. So research, innovation, and extension is the third criteria. So there's a lot of things which happen in terms of research. So this is where, you know, this component becomes very important both for ranking as well as accreditation, the component of research. So, you know, how do you do this? You know, you have to look at it. You have to review your resources for research, because okay. You know, it's capacity building of teachers. The newest trend is through mentoring. Then, you know, if you have to organize and nominate your teachers to a lot of FDPs and CDPs. And I told you, you know, there are various methods to improve your citation index, your H index, by using certain terminologies in your publications or identifying thematic areas for research. That will improve the quality of your publications and will make your life more easier. So, and of course, this is the right time when most projects are floated. A lot of projects which are floated go to DBT, DST, CSIR, ICSSR. All these agencies have floated lot of proposals, and last dates are coming somewhere middle of this month. So it's not, you know, you have not lost any time. Please try to look at these proposals and try to apply. There's a lot of research funding which is coming. And of course, the National Research Foundation is announced. They have huge money with them. So try to take advantage by, you know, following up the National Research Foundation invitations for projects and applications. Last week, they have announced the establishment of National Research Foundation with 15,000 crores of money allocated to it at the national level. So there are a lot of opportunities waiting for you in terms of research, provided you are proactive and attempt to submit a proposal. You may be failing at the first attempt, but certainly you'll get some sort of research projects if you apply. Then, you know, the third component of criteria 3 is extension and outreach. Second component, extension and outreach. You know, most often we have seen the analysis that is a very poorly performed area. It's not poorly performed, but it is the records which are kept are very bad. There is no record keeping mechanism for extension and outreach activities in the university. You do a lot of those things. But you don't keep records. So try to build your records based on some circulars or, you know, some small photographs or reports you have on board. Many universities I found have photographs, have small circulars issued, but they don't have reports developed. So it is important that you build upon your circulars and photographs, develop some sort of a small report. So that is going to help you in doing this. And there's a lot of weightage for that, huge weightage you have for conduct of extension and outreach activities. Okay, that's one of the highly rated metric. So there, you know, the intent of this metric is to transform the lives of students in terms of progression towards employability and higher education, promotion of entrepreneurship and skills. Okay, there are those type of multiple choice questions also on board in the third criteria for collaborations and ethical practices. So it's very important to understand these terminologies and look at them. So the problem is every university, you know, they continue to do the same thing and they expect something different type of results. So it's very important that, you know, NAC or NARF handhold the universities, and because of which this exercise is happening. So try to do things differently so that you get a different result. See, when Honorable Governor Madam has come to NAC, she was talking of extension and outreach activities. She said, what is this you are evaluating on blood donation camps, adoption of villages? These are old practices, you know, you can't evaluate based on them. You know, just one day they go sweep the village, they take some photographs and you give them 4 out of 4. No, there should be an impactful extension activity which will show some result in the development of the society and holistic development of the children who are attending to that program. So you have to evaluate them in a more stringent way in terms of impact. You know, then we started thinking of this idea at NAC, and we give more value to those practices which are conducted differently and which have a stronger impact on the community and the students who take them on board. So try to do things in a different way. Things have changed a lot. If you try to apply for basic science projects, research projects, DST is not going to give you more fund. Okay, you should try to pick up those new additions. Now talk of AI, talk of biotechnology, even in history, you know, or English, you know, there are so many things which have come up, new systems and new, domains of knowledge. So it is very important that we experiment and innovate a lot in our own thinking and teaching learning processes. The fourth criteria, we have 3 more after this to reach to the 7th. Okay, so it may take another 40 minutes. What's the time? 25 minutes. So you are saved. So I'll finish it quickly. So infrastructure, of course, the main component what we see in infrastructure is about the library and its funding, and library not in terms of physical library and physical sitting in the library and reading, but it is more looked at footfalls either through online or offline. Okay, and what type of e-resources you have in the library and how much money you have spent on e-resources and IT facilities developed is what NAC will be really looking at it. So they'll not look at, what is the size of your classroom, etc., etc. So overall, what NAC would like to see in terms of qualitative questions is, what is the type of students, experiences, campus experiences we are providing. Suppose we stayed in IIT guest house last night. The ambience, the campus ambience is so good, once you enter, you feel that, you're somewhere in a very important place. That type of infrastructural ambience where students like to remain on the campus is very, very important. So that type of ambience, how do you create, is what, many people nowadays, private universities, they give big, acha naam dete na, they call them learneries. They no more call them classrooms. तो ऐसे नए नए चीजों को वहां पे लगाना पड़ता है आप लोगों को. So, at the end of the day, what are the facilities, both physical and academic, in terms of curricular, co-curricular, and extracurricular activities to perform to achieve or get through that graduate attributes and to develop the necessary skills is what all about the infrastructure available on your institution. ऐसे नहीं old building हो तो भी, you should take pride in telling that this is our heritage building and this is how we maintain this building. है ना, पुराना equipment को एक museum बना लीजिए. Let them, keep on functioning. Small colleges are doing this. Okay? It's very important. Now, student support and progression. It's no more like, coaching the students for passing out and graduating out. We talk of lot of advising, academic support, technical support, even health and wellness. A very important component, especially post-COVID, and career guidance services, what you provide. So you aim at developing a holistic development of the students by not developing the domain skills alone, but make them a team player, make them a global citizen, prepare them for an undefined future, undefined job market. We don't know how the job markets shift. So that skilling, upskilling, and reskilling should happen every off and on. And they should be prepared to take on this. These, are normally we think that, identified skills of the employers will be about, the technical skills only. So it's nowhere the same. They talk of different skills requirement. And you see the shift in the skills. Language used, the basic content remains the same. And prioritization of the skills requirement, how it has shifted over a period of 5 years. And now it shifts almost every 2 years. Okay. So this is criteria 6. It talks of governance, leadership, and management. Most universities, even the highly rated universities, perform very poorly here. Very poorly here. And universities where perceptions are high, there is a lot of good governance which is on board. Evaluation studies say that. Okay. So, one important document is having your strategic plan document. That is a very important component under, criteria 6. Apart from capacity development of teachers, second level leadership, quality development, etc. So there's always that plan of action. The criteria 6 is all about building the attitude. This is one of the advertisement I often show. It was given by Accenture long back, 2016. So people who have heard me in 2016 might have seen this as my last slide. Now I have pushed into my 6th criteria slide. The staff having the right attitude and building that type of attitude and commitment among your staff by the leadership is a very, very important criteria for success of any university. And only such universities will lead to win. And all of you should have an internal quality assurance unit. And nurturing quality is a teamwork, participatory management concept. And nobody alone can do quality. Only the head of the institution or head of IQSC, as morning madam was telling. So it's not the job of only the vice chancellor or the IQSC coordinator, or not only the job of the 7 criterion committees. Taken an integrated approach. So the last criteria, this is mainly dependent on the, the performance of the institutions against the Sustainable Development Goals, SDG 4. Building value systems and global citizenship, respect to environment, respect to climate changes, and environmental consciousness. These are some of the components. The Sustainable Development Goals of UN are built into this criteria 7. So they talk a lot on, environmental protection, environment-friendly campuses, what you have, water preservation, water conservation, natural resource management, like, solar energy, etc. These are some of the things they'll ask you. This also has a lot of component on that ISR. ISR, is not very commonly used. I developed it in connotation with CSR. That's a social responsibility activity of the industry. So here I called it as institutional social responsibility. We are going back to our, ages when we had gurukuls supported by a community, the same community, where institutions and youth grew in a cultural environment, in a particular, curated cultural environment. So, and also you developed the attitude to contribute back to the communities where you live and serve. So developing such a activity, that is institutional social responsibility, is very important. So the important component next to is, you have this, how do you do that is, that's your, what you call, that's your identity. That particular practice or your giving back to the community is your identity. Okay, so there are 2 questions which fetch you a lot of marks. One is about the best practices. Best practices essentially need not be teaching learning. They can be outreach, they can be institutional social responsibility activities, grooming students towards being global citizens, social community activities, anything which is related to the development of the learner who is enrolled in your institution. And institutions contributing to the local community. That is a thing where the best practices come in. best practices essentially need not be of teaching learning. Okay? There's a structured format given for the best practices which you can fill, and most of you have really good best practices. If you look at this type of unique institutions like agriculture, veterinary, etc., there'll be a number of good practices. So it's not about only the money, but it is about the social benefits, what you get back. This is where we talk of best practices. So I am not defining on this term. At the end, I'll tell you one thing. All of us are putting effort. The amount of effort you just put to filling in the form is not worth than the effort which you try to fill the form intelligently interpreting data and information available in the institution and in the context in which you are working. That is, your presentation style and skills are very, very important, and try to not lose any data in presentation. Any data which even has a minutest relation to the questions asked by NAC, you just dump it. They will verify it. If they find it irrelevant, they will cut it. वो निकाल देगा, वो reduce कर देगा. आपका botheration नहीं है, but you felt it relevant, just submit it. Okay? So because if you submit, they may deduct, they may take or not take. लेकिन जब अगर submit ही नहीं करेंगे तो उन लोगों को क्या पता आपके पास क्या है? वो तो पूछ नहीं सकते ना, तो वो करना जरूरी होता है. So effort is important, but knowing where to make an effort is what makes a difference. So to conclude, okay. तो लास्ट इसमें जाने के लिए क्या इसमें करना इसके बाद से, हाँ, वो गवर्नमेंट से क्लिक कर देना. Slide, I'll not talk on that. कर दीजिए और आगे चले जाओ, और आगे चले जाओ, और आगे और आगे और आगे, हाँ बस और आगे. So quality assurance is nothing but accountability and improvement. So you are developing an actions model where we talk of access, cost of investment, your teaching function, interaction and user friendliness, which is about technology, the organization, the novelty of your institution reflected in best practices, and the speed with which you act. So I call this 7 criteria of NAC is nothing but an action model of the university's quality assurance process. So being focused is very, very important for you. If you are not focused, you will not be able to achieve. And teamwork, as we have discussed, is also very important. No individual can perform on this. Transparency and sincerity when you provide data is what again makes a difference. So this is what I end with, telling that a dream doesn't become reality through magic. You will not get A++ grades just like that. कुछ तो मेहनत करना पड़ेगा. And you have everything with you, everything. There is nowhere in NAAC's criteria there will be a 0 value coming from any institution. हो ही नहीं सकता. 4 की जगह 3 मिलेगा या 1 मिलेगा या 2 मिलेगा, but 0 कभी नहीं होगा. every question can be answered by every institution in this country. And that is why we have developed very contextual manuals specific to each of the vertical subject of the, offered by our institution. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your valuable inputs. You have really enlightened the session by explaining each and every criteria point-wise, and you have given very valuable key pointers to all of us. Now the session is open for the question and answer rounds. I would like to request the volunteers to please be prepared with the mics. Any questions? Yes. Volunteers, please be prepared with the mic. Sir.
Hello.
Nice presentation, ma'am. In one of the earlier workshop which was conducted in Raj Bhavan, the future of NAC was said that we won't be having CGPA accreditation, but it will be either the universities accredited or not. So can you comment on it?
It's not CGPA accreditation, it is graded accreditation. You'll always have a CGPA. Okay, A plus plus, A plus, ये वाला alphabetical grading नहीं रहेगा. In binary accreditation, it is accredited or not accredited, but with a CGPA. Okay, if there is no CGPA, then you can't compare yourself, because accreditation is a process for future improvement and accountability. So that is, discussions are going on. Anytime they can change. Only they'll remove the alphabetical grading. जैसे आपका 3.51 and above आया तो A plus plus होगा. अभी you will be called 3.56 से आपको मिला है 3.56 accredited. Okay, and anything below 2.3 it will be not accredited. So discussions are on, and anytime it may come on board.
May I have a question, please, ma'am? My name is Ajay Kumar Chaube. I'm from Jannaik Chandrasekhar University, Padia, and I'm also coordinating NAC and also convener of Criteria 1. Ma'am, we have presentations regarding NAC the Raj Bhavan next month, and we have so many questions, doubts regarding same. Actually, our university was established in 2016, and the first result was declared in 2019. So we have, and regular faculties were inducted last year only, between April to August. Before that, before 2019, we don't have adequate data. So how to put on record those things of the previous years so that we can show it in our presentations in the next month?
See,
Thank you.
anywhere, you should put little effort. Okay.
Right, ma'am.
Admission data has to be there,
Right.
because you have to show, you issue certificates
Yeah.
to your pass out students.
Right.
You conduct their examinations.
Yeah.
You issue mark sheets.
Right.
Yeah. And you invite applications. So that will be there for you.
Fine.
It'll be there, student
Yeah,
data.
yeah, it is there.
It is there. Now coming to teacher data, your salary slips, remuneration paid to them,
Right,
the approvals for appointing them will be there. So you have teacher data.
right.
Okay, so teacher data will give the profile of the teacher also.
Okay. No, ma'am, I'm asking about the activities.
Yeah, that's what I'm coming one by one.
Yeah.
Now coming to activities, you might have given some circulars. That's what I told you. There may be some photographs, some circulars which have gone, or as an institutional memory, somebody may have some record of sending some email by somewhere. Okay, so you have to collect from such information and build your data. Build your data. Some effort shall be required. Now coming to research publications, you will ask me another question. Most of the teachers have left this institution. How do you know what is the research publications?
Yes, yes.
You appoint one person who is, a library doing MLib or BLib. Ask them to give the name of the teacher and ask them to go for a Google search. Google Scholar search, and extract the data. Even established universities, teachers don't provide data. You know, leave about the young universities, you know, not having, you know, the infrastructure and all. But established universities, only 30% of data is directly given by the staff, by the faculty or teaching or non-teaching staff. 70% have to be extracted by putting effort, taking the other means. For example, they were not giving, you know, publications in one of the university we were working. So we went to these establishment sections, the admin sections who handle, you know, the personal files of teachers. And, you know, they all have got these APIs, then this career advancement, CAS, promotions. So for that, they all submitted some data. So we engaged one person and told you just take out all the data of these people and then just put it, okay? So and then you verify that data and you have to include. That is one source. The other source is annual reports you prepare for various schemes or for the state government submission or your budgetary plans you prepare. So you have to dig out those informations.
Thank you.
And regarding having regular staff, NAC has categorically talks of full-time staff and it never talks of permanent or temporary staff. Even NIRF, it is only full-time teachers who are required to be counted on board. Okay.
Thank you.
Any other queries? Yes. The grade OTC.
Namaste, ma'am. Myself is Sanjay Singh from Shakuntala Mishra Rehabilitation University, Lucknow. 7th criteria के बारे में पूछना चाहता हूँ कि there is a lot of confusion over writing the best practices in our university. I want you to tell at least 10 instances so that we can incorporate in that, because we have limb center, हम लोग limb center के बारे में लिखते हैं. Mostly students are disabled students. तो बहुत सारी यूनिवर्सिटी से आपको फीडबैक मिला होगा. तो जब हम लोग ये लिखने जाते हैं बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस क्या हैं, तो वी आर इन डिलेमा कि व्हाट टू राइट, व्हाट टू नॉट टू राइट. तो एटलीस्ट 10 एग्जांपल्स फ्रॉम वेरियस यूनिवर्सिटीज, बिकॉज आई हैव रेड सो मेनी एग्जांपल्स फ्रॉम अदर यूनिवर्सिटीज टू, कि जब हम वो लिखने की कोशिश करते हैं तो ये होता है कि नहीं, दिस इज नॉट गुड, बट इट इज देयर. तो कम से कम हमारी जैसी यूनिवर्सिटीज को, जो कि डिसेबल्ड बच्चों की यूनिवर्सिटी है, हम लोग क्या करते हैं कि जैसे उसमें बच्चों के लिए जो करते हैं वो लिखना शुरू कर देते हैं. लेकिन आप अगर मुझे कुछ एग्जांपल्स बता देंगी तो हम लोग उसको लिख करके अपने उस क्राइटेरिया 7 को पूरा कर सकते हैं.
बेस्ट एग्जांपल्स का हम कैसे एग्जांपल बताएंगे? बेस्ट इज ऑफ व्हाट यू आर डूइंग द बेस्ट.
एग्जैक्टली, बट आई कैन अंडरस्टैंड.
नहीं सुनो, आप बता दीजिए, आप 4-5 बता दीजिए, वो मैं बताती हूँ वो बेस्ट है कि नहीं आपका.
जैसे हमारे यहाँ लिम्ब सेंटर है,
हाँ,
इट इज पार्ट ऑफ आवर ड्यूटी कि हम लिम्ब सेंटर है, हम लोग लिम्ब प्रोवाइड करते हैं. इवन आउट ऑफ यूनिवर्सिटीज जो भी लोग आते हैं हम उनको लिम्ब प्रोवाइड करते हैं फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट. हियरिंग इम्पेयर्ड बच्चों के लिए हम लोगों ने अभी CSR से बहुत सारे कंप्यूटर्स अरेंज किए हुए हैं जो लैंग्वेज को, एक लैंग्वेज को 146 लैंग्वेजेस में कन्वर्ट कर देता है. इवन हम ये कहते हैं कि हम उनको फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट फूडिंग, लॉजिंग ये सब देते हैं. क्या ये बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस में आएगा? बिकॉज इट हैज बीन प्रोवाइडेड बाय गवर्नमेंट इटसेल्फ.
गवर्नमेंट इटसेल्फ है. इम्प्लीमेंट आप कैसे कर रहे हैं, उसका ऑब्जेक्टिव क्या है, उसका इंटेंशन क्या है, आप खुद ही बोल रहे हैं ना, इतना पैशनेटली आप बोल रहे हैं हम फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट भी प्रोवाइड करते हैं, बच्चों को फूड भी प्रोवाइड करते हैं. माने उनका एक्सेस नहीं है, आपने गवर्नमेंट को लिख के उस इनिशिएटिव लेके उस माध्यम से आप इम्प्लीमेंट कर रहे हैं.
इट हैज बीन फंडेड बाय गवर्नमेंट.
ठीक है, फंड कोई भी दे दे, लेकिन उसका इनिशिएटिव आपने भी लिया है,
Yes, ma'am.
इंस्टीट्यूशन ने, है ना, तो वो बेस्ट.
मतलब कोई जरूरी नहीं है कि टीचिंग प्रोसेस में जो आए वही लिखा जाए.
नहीं.
एनीथिंग व्हिच इज न्यू कैन बी.
यस, एनीथिंग. मैं तो अभी बताया, मेरा इसमें टीचिंग लर्निंग का जरूर नहीं है. ISR इंस्टीट्यूशनल सोशल रेस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी बताया ना आपने, जैसे बाहर का बच्चों को भी कर रहे हैं ना,
तो बाहर के किसी भी एज के लोगों को कर रहे हैं
कर रहे हैं, सो
Yes.
वो तो ISR है ना, सोशल रेस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी आप ले रहे हैं ना आपका।
यस मैम।
So you are also serving the society, not only the institution. You are optimally utilizing the available equipment for service of the society
राइट मैम।
also.
Yes,
Okay?
ma'am.
And you are creating an awareness
यस मैम।
for conducting that exercise.
ओके, थैंक यू मैम।
So that is all best practice.
थैंक यू मैम, थैंक यू।
नमस्कार मैडम, मैं संजीव कुमार आगरा विश्वविद्यालय से। बेस्ट प्रैक्टिस की बात चल रही है तो हम लोग अपने यहाँ हमने एक मॉडल स्कूल चलाते हैं हम लोग विश्वविद्यालय के परिसर में ही, और जिसका मुख्य उद्देश्य है जो विश्वविद्यालय के कर्मचारी हैं और खासकर हमारे यहाँ कॉन्ट्रेक्चुअल कर्मचारी होते हैं, डेली वेजर कर्मचारी होते हैं, उनके बच्चों को एजुकेशन देने के लिए चला रखा है। 12th तक का स्कूल है हमारा और बहुत अच्छा चल रहा है, CBSE बोर्ड से चलता है और पिछली बार के परिणाम भी उसके बहुत प्रसिद्ध रहे, काफ़ी अच्छे परिणाम रहे थे। तो क्या ये बेस्ट प्रैक्टिस में आ सकता है?
You can have better best practices. This is only a welfare measure which you are doing. It's not, मैंने अगर आपको और कुछ नहीं बेस्ट मिल रहा है तो कर सकते हैं, but you will have much more better practices. Like you may be working with the pollution board somewhere to clean up some of those areas, and your students may be going and reaching out to clear Ganga or whatever,
जी.
you know, Yamuna or whatever it is, pollution clearance का awareness create कर रहे होगा. There are so many best practices in Agra.
हाँ हाँ हाँ।
Now I'm just telling what I know, but there are also social outreach activities which you are doing.
Yeah.
है ना, on a for community service, education, adult education, वो सब कर रहे हैं
वो
आप
सर,
लोग।
वो तो कई सारी प्रैक्टिसेस हम लोग लगातार कर रहे हैं। लाइक
हाँ।
कुछ हमने स्कूल को गोद लिया हुआ है, गाँव को गोद लिया हुआ है, वहां जाकर के एजुकेशन देते हैं। अपने कैंपस में जो सामने गरीब तबका रहता है उनके बहुत सारे बच्चों को कैंपस में शाम को पढ़ाते हैं। ऐसे काम तो पैरेलल कर रहे हैं, लेकिन ये कि ये बड़ा काम था, मैंने इसीलिए पूछा था।
नहीं नहीं, उससे भी ये बड़ा काम है। इनफॉर्मल सेक्टर में जो काम कर रहे हैं ना, इनफॉर्मल सेक्टर में, एंड फॉर ए डेवलपमेंट ऑफ योर लोकल कम्युनिटी,
Yeah.
you're contributing to the development of your local community, and you are creating a value system among your students and teachers.
Okay.
है ना, for respect for dignity of labor, respect to the community, respect to the natural resources.
जी.
These are very higher order best practices which you should
That we
write.
can do. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other queries? Okay. Now I would like to request our honorable chairperson, Dr. Sudhir N. Bobde ji, to kindly give his concluding remarks.
आदरणीय बोबड़े जी, आदरणीय रमा जी, काशी का भी कुछ प्रतिनिधित्व होना चाहिए, इसी लालच में खड़ा हुआ हूँ और कोई विशेष बात नहीं कहनी। आदरणीय रमा जी से कई बार बातें हुई हैं, कई जगह, राजभवन में, अन्य जगह भी। आप काशी की परंपरा से भी बहुत परिचित हैं। हमारे यहाँ शास्त्रार्थ की परंपरा है, प्रायः काशी में शास्त्रार्थ होता रहता है। विद्वान बाहर से आते हैं, एक एक बहुत से अच्छे अच्छे विचार आते हैं, उन पर शास्त्रार्थ होता है। तो इसका भी कुछ, ये भी बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस के अंतर्गत जरूर इसको ग्रहण करना। यद्यपि हमारे 18 संस्कृत जो विश्वविद्यालय हैं पूरे भारत में 18 संस्कृत विश्वविद्यालय हैं। उसके लिए संस्कृत के नैक में जाने के लिए अलग से सब क्राइटेरियाज का निर्माण हुआ है। हमारा विश्वविद्यालय पूर्व में ए श्रेणी में वो रहा है। मैं भी IQAC कोऑर्डिनेटर रहा हूँ, इस समय परीक्षा नियंत्रक के रूप में कार्य कर रहा हूँ। आगे हमको भी इसमें जाना है। हम विश्वविद्यालय में भी अध्यापन करते हैं और एक जो प्राचीन जो परंपरा है कि हम घर पर छात्रों को अध्यापन करते हैं, निःशुल्क अध्यापन करते हैं। कुछ लोग भोजन वस्त्र दे करके अध्यापन करते हैं। तो इसका भी कुछ अंक यदि मिलता या इसका भी कुछ
है ना सर
हल-
इसका
जी।
इसका तो है ही उसमें।
है
हाँ
तो
है
बहुत
इन्वॉल्व। हाँ
बहुत धन्यवाद।
लास्ट क्वेश्चन।
ज्यादा टाइम हो गया।
थैंक यू मैम। नमस्ते मैम। एक क्वेश्चन है मैम इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर को लेकर हमारा। मेरा नाम प्रियंका सिंह है, बलिया यूनिवर्सिटी से हूँ मैं। क्योंकि कई बार हमारे पास जब इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर नहीं होता है तो उसके हमारे एक क्राइटेरिया 4 में सारे पॉइंट्स हमारे लेस हो जाएंगे। और सबसे बड़ी प्रॉब्लम हमारे यूनिवर्सिटी के पास यही है कि हमारे पास इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर बिल्कुल ही नील है इस समय, या कंस्ट्रक्शन है, अंडर कंस्ट्रक्शन है। तो क्या हम बिना इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के या लेस इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के साथ भी जा सकते हैं नेक में?
लेस इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर का बारे में जरूर जा सकते हैं, बिकॉज दे आर नॉट गोइंग टू मेजर योर बिल्डिंग्स। कहीं पे नहीं है वो,
और
है
मैम
ना?
सेकंड क्वेश्चन
जो
ये था।
मिनिमम प्लेग्राउंड है, लाइब्रेरी तो होगा ना।
जी मैम,
हाँ, बस।
मिनिमम वहाँ पे पूरी होती
हाँ
है मैम।
मिनिमम से जा सकते हैं आप।
और एक क्वेश्चन मैम और है आईएसआर को लेकर कि इसको हम एक्टिवेट कैसे कर सकते हैं? इंस्टीट्यूशनल सोशल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी की बात की मैम आपने।
वो तो मेरा आइडिया मैंने फ्लोट किया है यहाँ पे, बिकॉज यू नो सी व्हाट हैपेंस, यू नो हाउ डू यू वर्क विद आप कम्युनिटी के साथ जो भी काम करते हैं, और कम्युनिटी इंस्टीट्यूशन में कैसे एंगेज होता है। मैंने उसका, जैसे हमारा IQAC है मान लीजिए, उसमें हम लोग क्या बोल रहे हैं, लोकल कम्युनिटी का एक रिप्रेजेंटेटिव होना है ना, एक सदस्य होगा उसमें। वैसे ही जो कम्युनिटी का कंट्रीब्यूशन क्या है और आपका कंट्रीब्यूशन कम्युनिटी का क्या है।
जी।
तो एक्सटेंशन एक्टिविटीज हो सकता है, कोई यू नो लाइक बाढ़ आ गया, या कोई पोल्यूशन का प्रॉब्लम है, या कोई यू नो वो क्या माने जेंडर इश्यूज का प्रॉब्लम है, या कोई हेल्थ का प्रॉब्लम है, तो आप लोग वहाँ जाके अवेयरनेस प्रोग्राम करेंगे, या किसी एक्सपर्ट को लाके वहाँ लेक्चर दिलवाएंगे टू एजुकेट दैट कम्युनिटी, है ना। तो कम्युनिटी को कैसे हम वापस दे सके, दैट इज योर सोशल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी।
थैंक यू।
Thank you so much. Now I would like to request our honorable chairperson to give his concluding remarks.
संजय लास्ट क्वेश्चन
सर
पूछो।
इट इज नॉट ए क्वेश्चन एट ऑल सर। मेरा चूंकि बहुत कम ऐसा होता है कितने लोग इकट्ठा होते हैं, तो मेरा अपनी यूनिवर्सिटी डॉक्टर शकुंतला मिश्रा रिहैबिलिटेशन यूनिवर्सिटी की तरफ से एक गुजारिश है कि आप सभी लोगों के सिर परिचित, कोई भी परिचित हो, रिश्तेदार हो, हटा ये फोरम नहीं है, लेकिन मैं कहना चाहूँगा किसी को भी लिम्ब की, आर्टिफिशियल लिम्ब की ज़रूरत हो तो आप लोग बेहिचक हम मेरी यूनिवर्सिटी में आप लोग भेज सकते हैं। थैंक यू।
Okay. Thank you so much, sir.
आउटरीच के लिए, आउटरीच का अच्छा प्रयास है, आउटरीच आपकी इसी संस्था का इसी से हो रहा है। चल बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। मैं आदरणीय डॉक्टर रमा जी का बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद ज्ञापित करना चाहूँगा कि हम सभी जितने विश्वविद्यालय यहाँ पर है, जैसा आपने नोटिस किया था कि यहाँ पर हमारे संगीत विश्वविद्यालय भी है, पुनर्वास विश्वविद्यालय भी है, कृषि विश्वविद्यालय भी है, आयुष विश्वविद्यालय है, आयुर्विज्ञान संस्थानों के विश्वविद्यालय है, एक सामान्य अन्य विश्वविद्यालय भी है, और साथ साथ पशु चिकित्सा विश्वविद्यालय भी है। तो अलग प्रकृति के यहाँ पर विश्वविद्यालय है। आप सभी को आपने नैक के बारे में, उसके क्या क्या पैरामीटर्स है, कितने 7 क्राइटेरियाज है, क्राइटेरियाज के बारे में कितने की इंडिकेटर्स है, डिफरेंट क्वालिटेटिव और क्वांटिटेटिव मैट्रिसेस क्या है, इसके बारे में आपने हमारा ज्ञानवर्धन किया। लगातार मैं पिछले 1-1.5 साल से देख रहा हूँ कि किस प्रकार से हमारी कुलाधिपति महोदया लगातार इन सभी यूनिवर्सिटीज़ का प्रस्तुतिकरण राजभवन में कराती है। जैसा मैंने सुबह अपने संबोधन में कहा था कि HBTU का पिछले 1.5 वर्ष में 7 बार प्रेजेंटेशन हुआ, और प्रत्येक प्रेजेंटेशन औसतन 5 घंटे चला। और जैसे अभी आप देख रहे हैं कि कुछ लोग तैयारी कर रहे हैं राजभवन में प्रस्तुतिकरण करने के लिए, और वो आपसे मार्गदर्शन भी प्राप्त करना चाह रहे हैं ताकि वहाँ का प्रस्तुतिकरण, जैसे चौबे जी ने कहा कि प्रस्तुतिकरण हमें वहाँ करना है, हमें मार्गदर्शन दीजिए। तो कुल मिला के जैसा मैंने कहा कि एक उत्तर प्रदेश में एक बहुत बड़ी चल रहा है, मतलब एक रिवॉल्यूशन के रूप में चल रहा है। और उसमें आपने देखा होगा कि हम किसी निजी कंसल्टेंट्स को हम इस्तेमाल नहीं कर रहे हैं, जो अमूमन आपने देखा होगा कि प्राइवेट यूनिवर्सिटीज दे यूज प्राइवेट कंसल्टेंट्स। बट हमारे यहाँ सबसे बड़ी ये है उपलब्धि मानता हूँ मैं कि हमारे जितने राज्य विश्वविद्यालय है सब में एक समूह, एक परिवार की भांति सब लोग कार्य कर रहे हैं और एक दूसरे के प्रति वर्टिकल और हॉरिजॉन्टल इंटरेक्शन भी इनमें बहुत बढ़ गई है। जैसा मैडम ने आपको सुबह अपने संबोधन में कहा है, तो निश्चित रूप से एक बहुत अच्छा प्रयास चल रहा है। और यहाँ पर वही विश्वविद्यालय रखे गए थे जिन्होंने अभी तक नैक की तैयारी कर रहे हैं, जो अभी तक नैक में किसी भी साइकिल में या पुराने साइकिल में भी थे तो साइकिल नए साइकिल में फिर से जा रहे हैं। आपने हमारा उत्साहवर्धन किया, ज्ञानवर्धन किया। मैं आपका राजभवन की ओर से, सभी विश्वविद्यालयों की तरफ से बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद ज्ञापित करता हूँ। और मैं सभी हमारे विश्वविद्यालय से अनुरोध करूंगा कि ये नैक की क्राइटेरिया जो बताए, लगातार एक निरंतर प्रक्रिया है, लगातार इवॉल्व हो रही है। जैसा मैडम ने कहा कि एनईपी के भी नए नए इसमें और नए एनईपी के अनुसार इसके क्राइटेरिया भी चेंज होने वाले हैं। सीपीजीए या सीजीपीए के अनुसार भी केवल एक्रेडिटेड या नॉन एक्रेडिटेड के रूप में इसका परिवर्तन होने वाला है, तो इसको भी हम संज्ञान में रखें। और आइए हम आप सब मिलकर इस विश्वविद्यालय को और उत्तर प्रदेश राज्य को एक उच्च शिक्षा में अग्रणी राज्य बनाने का प्रयास करें। इन्हीं शब्दों के साथ मैं आदरणीय के रमा जी का बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद ज्ञापित करता हूँ। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद मैम।
Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable suggestions and tips. जैसे कि हमारी भारतीय परंपरा रही है अतिथि देवो भव, इसी श्रृंखला में ये हमारा कर्तव्य बनता है कि हम अपने अतिथि का सादर सत्कार सम्मान करें। मैं इस श्रृंखला में रिक्वेस्ट करूंगी प्रोफेसर सुधीर अवस्थी सर, ऑनरेबल वाइस चांसलर CSDM यूनिवर्सिटी, to do the honor to our speaker and the chairperson. Thank you so much, sir. My gratitude and thanks to our eminent speaker, Dr. K. Rama ma'am, for her valuable inputs, and our diligent chairperson, Dr. Sudhir M. Bobreji. My heartfelt thanks to our honorable minister, sir, for his gracious presence here. Thank you so much to all of you, to all the dignitaries and all the delegates from the academic world. और एक बार पुनः हम लोग फिर अगले सत्र में मिलते हैं, और अभी एक छोटे से टी ब्रेक के लिए अभी हम लोग चलते हैं, और टी का जो इंतज़ाम है वो इसी हॉल के बाहर है। थैंक यू सो मच फॉर बीइंग सो एक्टिवली पार्टिसिपेटेड इन दिस सेशन।